Alright, hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today's motovlog is going to be about my first job. So, we've gone over a couple of videos in the job series, I guess. I guess it's a series, now that I've done a couple of them. I've done Making the Cut. That kind of like kicked off the whole job series thing. And then there was my favorite job, my least favorite job, the job that I didn't get, and then there's also, what was the last one? Oh, this one, the one that I'm going to do right now. This one is my first job. So, worst job, favorite job, job I didn't get, and then my first job. So, I mean, like, everybody has a first job, and whether or not you remember it or not, hey, that's up to you. But my first job, sorry about the mic right there, I had to move it. My first job was difficult to say the least, but it paid pretty well. So it was kind of a weird situation, but this was back in the early 2000s. I think it was like 2008, 2006 or something like that. I can't remember. Anyways, my brothers were both going to high school at the time, and their physics teacher, we'll just call him Doc, because that's what I call him. We'll call him Doc. So Doc was their physics teacher. We call him Doc because he has his PhD. So we call him Doc, and he teaches physics, so it's kind of like a Back to the Future kind of thing too. So Doc, he was teaching my brothers AP Physics in high school, and at one point he opened up to the class and he said, hey guys, summer's coming around, and I know some of you guys are looking for jobs, so I have a job for you guys if you want. It pays $100 a day. Pretty much it's just pulling weeds on my property. So where this guy lived, Doc's property was actually an avocado farm up in the hills of Temecula. So it was this really beautiful area. I think it's like 30 acres total, 20 or 25 acres of avocados, 5 acres of like his livable property. So he had the plot, he had his parking lot, he had his driveway, and he had he had his backyard, front yard. It was pretty much 5 acres. So it was a huge piece of property. And he was getting pretty old at the time. I think he was like 60 at the time, where he was like, hey guys, I need some help. And pretty much what he had them do was just spend one entire day of pulling weeds, and then he barbecued for them, and he gave them a $100 bill right when the day was over. And like, $100 a day for manual labor back then was pretty good, because minimum wage was, I think, like $7, $6, $7. So $10 to hang out with your classmates and just pull weeds and, get barbecue afterwards is like awesome, sweet. But what Doc was doing was he was systematically seeing the people who were lazy, and he just wouldn't ask them back the next week. So he would give everyone a call and say, hey, do you want to make another $100? Today, tomorrow, or next week, over the weekend, whatever. Hey, do you want to make some money? And he started calling back fewer and fewer people, until eventually it was just my two older brothers. And of course they're making a kind of quite a bit of money, and I was a 7th grader, kind of jealous of my brothers, having this job and being able to, to buy things and do stuff. So I asked him, hey, can you talk to Doc and ask if I could start working there too? And yeah, they asked, and he said no for a little bit, and I kept asking, and eventually he said yes. But it was hard work. Like these weeds that my brothers were pulling, and these people were pulling, their classmates, like, they were gigantic. So they were like 6-foot high weeds, and I was like this little 4.5-foot dude in middle school. I was tiny. I was like super malnourished. I actually don't think that's what it was, but like, I just wasn't a very big kid. So it was challenging for me, you know, pulling these weeds. And it was kind of one of those weeds that are like really thick at the base, maybe like a 1/2 inch to an inch thick, and it has this really long tap root. So it's not like your typical weed where you pull it and you expect all these roots all over the place. No, it was just like probably 6 to 8 inches of just one single root that just goes straight down into the ground. And for those of you who, you know, have pulled weeds, you know it's like when you pull a weed during the wrong time of the year, it just spreads its seeds all over the place. And pretty much what had happened was his Doc's two dogs, had run around the entire property shaking all these weeds around and just leaving a bunch of seeds all over the place. And this place was like infested with weeds. And they were all 6 foot high. It was like season after season of just weeds growing and growing and growing. And, you know, that's not really a problem if you just have this little tiny suburban home. But when you have 10 acres of weeds, it starts to become a problem in terms of protecting your home from fire, you know, visibility, coyotes, squirrels, you know, all this wildlife in danger of, you know, a fire occurring. I just realized my bag is open right now. All this dangerous stuff could possibly happen, and he wanted to prevent that, so he thought, hey, you know, we might as well pull them. And then it escalated from pulling weeds to using a weed whacker. So not like your basic Craftsman or Sears weed whacker. Like, he had Still and Husqvarna weed whackers. Like, at the time, I had no idea what these tools were. Not like what they were, but who these brands were. And it kind of took me for a loop, because these weed whackers, they looked like the one that my dad would use when I was a kid, and I was like, oh, you know, he weed whacks the yard, I can weed whack the yard. And these weed whips, as some of you guys call them, weed whips, were pretty hardcore. They're the ones that you have a harness to use because, you know, one, for ergonomics, and two, for safety. Just because if you manage to touch the whip when it's going, it'll cut your finger off. So eventually what we started doing was, there were just too many weeds to manage. So what we would do is, just season after season, we would take these weed whips and just we would wind them out and then go top to bottom. From the top of the weed at like 6 feet high, we'd go down to the very base, and we would just weed whack acre after acre after acre until it was completely barren. And of course, in the hills of Temecula are very similar to this. There's like this kind of topography. Actually, I'll go ahead and drive over there. I'll ride over there one day, and I'll go ahead and show you. But it's very, very slopey. At least that's how his property was. It was all hills, and anything that was like somewhat flat like this, we would just use a brush mower on. He would use a brush mower because it is pretty much a big walking lawnmower, but it pretty much tears everything up in front of it. But that's pretty much what Doc would use, and then me and my brothers would use the weed whips, and we would just like whip and whip and whip all day, day after day after day, every summer. And you know, we would just do that. And eventually, you know, I went from minimum wage. He started me off at minimum wage at like $6-7, and then when he saw that I was just as capable as my older brothers, he kicked me up to $10 an hour. And eventually, oh yeah, instead of going from a monthly or a daily rate, he went to, hey, we'll pay you hourly because the work is, you know, you guys are working way harder than $100 a day. Because some days we would pull really long days and we would work super hard. So, you know, eventually we ended up getting paid about like $13 an hour. But the work changed. Of course, we were still weed whipping every summer, and you know, during all of our breaks during school or whatever, whenever Doc would need help, he would give us a call, and you know, head on over there and help him out on the ranch. And you know, of course it was a lot of repetitive stuff, but eventually he started teaching us more and more about the property. He taught us more about how to properly manage a big piece of land like that and protect it from, you know, the dangers of fire. So we ended up doing a lot of different stuff on that ranch. We ended up clearing a lot of trees. We ended up building bridges. We ended up running probably miles of irrigation. At least that's what it felt like. He taught us how to do a master system with irrigation and plumbing like that, and it was a ton of fun. It was tricky to learn, but you know, we eventually got it. You know, me and my brothers are pretty smart cookies, so you know, we had no trouble doing it and learning it. And one of the big things about me and my brothers is Doc was helping us out financially, but he was also teaching us in the classroom and outside of the classroom. So eventually I became one of his students, and that was like 2 or 3 years down the road. But you know, this job was crazy hard. Imagine like 110-degree heat, and you have to strap on this weed whacker and climb hills, and you're on uneven footing, and you have a helmet on, and you have a face mask on, and you're just doing hour after hour of weed whipping, or physically pulling weeds, or laying irrigation and digging trenches. Like, it was crazy. It was crazy, the stuff that we were doing at such a young age. But it taught me and my brothers how to be, you know, hard workers, for one, because this work was not easy. This set the bar for pretty much my expectation of a blue-collar job. And, you know, I'm glad that it happened, because, you know, when kids go to mow lawns and stuff like that, this was that to the extreme. Like, when we would mow the lawn in the front and backyard, it would take about 3 hours. That's how much lawn that this dude had. He had a ride-along mower, and he had a push mower, like one of the bagged push mowers, and we pretty much all 4 of us would grab a tool. It would be one of us using an edger, one of us using the push mower, one of us using the ride-along mower, and another person using the weed whip to go around the sprinklers and stuff like that. And you know, it was crazy. It took us like 3 hours to do that, and it was just nuts, man. And of course, you know, when you have a property that large, you need that kind of workforce to do it. But it was a good time. It was a lot of hard work, but me and my brothers, we earned a good wage for it, and it taught us the meaning of respecting work and being prepared mentally and physically for what life has ahead of you. And you know, now that I'm older, and now that me and my brothers are older, like when we started getting older, he pretty much stopped calling us, because he knew we had like real people jobs. We moved out, and we were no longer, you know, we're no longer the same kids in high school, you know, looking for money. We were just those guys who, you know, who would come by and, you know, shoot the shit with him. But it was a fun time hanging out with him, because he taught us a lot about life. Because of course, when you're on your breaks and when you're on your lunches and when you're pulling weeds, you know, you talk to people. So we would talk to each other, and sometimes we wouldn't talk at all. Both were totally fine. But when we would talk, we would get life lessons from Doc, pretty much. But when we weren't working, we were talking about hobbies. We were talking about all this and that. And the reason why my brothers and I love cars and we love guns is mostly because of Doc, because of Doc. I almost said his name right there. Because Doc had these cool cars, and then he taught us about them, and then he taught us what to look for. And then when I told Doc, like, hey, this is the car that I'm looking for, you know, he kept his eyes out, and he actually showed me the car that I have now. It was different than the one that I first wanted, But he said, hey man, like, these are really cool cars, you should check it out. And he actually went with me and my brothers, like, he took us on this massive road trip to Northern California to go buy this car. Like, he trailered it, he got the truck, he asked his relatives to go ahead and open up their home for us. And dude, we had a road trip, and it was awesome. And you know, it all stemmed from my first job, and you know, it was hard work. I did it for a long time. I did it from when I was a 7th to 8th grader all the way up until I was like a junior or sophomore in college. I was helping him out. And of course, when I was a sophomore in college, I was doing a lot more complicated work. Like, instead of doing like all the basic stuff like pulling weeds for him, I was doing more of the big like repair stuff. So I was doing a lot of welding on the property. We were welding culverts and stuff like that. I was doing a lot of fence repair just on the property and stuff like that. And eventually he realized, like, hey man, like, you know, you don't have to come by and help me out anymore. And you know, it felt bad because, you know, I'd been working for him and with him for so many years on and off that it was like, yeah, you know, how long am I gonna do this thing for? And it really, like, really made me question like my profession and everything like that, and my occupation. And I still help him out from time to time. He sold the ranch just because he no longer could keep up with it, and we helped him move out. We helped him repaint the place. We helped him put new wood floors in, and I helped him redo all the tile and the grout in his kitchen. And it was a lot of fun, but it was sad to leave that place. But you know, eventually all good things got to come to an end. So he sold the place, and that was pretty much it. That was my first job. I was pretty much a range hand. We didn't have anything to do with the avocados except for eat them on our breaks. So I've probably had like a lifetime worth of avocados. But it was a lot of fun. He taught us a lot of things, and he's a really close family friend to us now. We pretty much hang out, like, we love the things that we love because, hey, he told us, like, how cool life can be if you have cool people around you. And you know, he was just super supportive of us, and you know, he's a teacher and a mentor to us, and you know, he'll always have a really special place in my heart because, you know, he was formative to who I am now. He's seen me at my ups and downs, and he's seen me and my brothers at our ups and downs. And you know, that was kind of my first job and my first employer, and that's kind of really, that was kind of the job that really shaped me into the person that I am now. Someone who's willing to work hard and not complain about, you know, about a difficult job, but rather say, hey, who can help me on this? Who has more expertise? And who can I count on to, you know, give me some advice and guide me in a better direction, you know. I didn't even realize this thing was going on for so long. But anyways, guys, that kind of rounds out my job series. My first job, last job, or my first job, jeez, man, can't find words. My first job, my worst job, best job, making the cut, and then there you go. That's pretty much it. But like, anyways, guys, there are plenty of hard-working people out there, and you know, I eventually went to college, and I realized that, you know, the world is always going to need people who do the blue-collar jobs, who sweat in the sun, who fix roads, who dig ditches, who pull weeds, who put on the weed whip, whatever you want to call it, who put on the weed whip and just do it day in and day out. And it made me respect the fucker, man. Jesus. It made me really respect those people. But, you know, never look down on those people if you are in a position of, you know, management, or you are a white-collar worker, because those people make the world go around. And honestly, you know, our country needs those people right now. They need welders, they need fabricators, they need people who can who can build the things that engineers dream up. They need the go-getters. But anyways, guys, that pretty much rounds it out. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. And until next time, peace out.